We've all dealt with them, right? The person at work who purposely leaves you out of email lists or just brushes off pretty much everything that you have to say. Or that friend who makes little digs at you every chance that they can. Or the family member who just by spending time with them leaves you feeling totally drained. So who are we talking about, guys? We're talking about toxic people, right? So in this video, we're going to talk about how to handle toxic people while maintaining your character, your integrity, and most importantly, your sanity. But let's talk about the toxic behavior itself, because it's not always obvious, right? There's that like slick toxic person, and then there's just like the outwardly rude person. And that outwardly rude person is almost easier to manage because it's obvious that they're being rude. Everyone else can see it. It's not just directed at you. It's just sort of who they are. But then there's that like slick toxic person who somehow just seems to direct their toxicity toward you and no one else can really see it. So for example, right, say that you're in a work meeting and everyone's given their input and the person in charge, well, it's their job to kind of take in that input and give feedback. But when it comes your turn to give the input, there's no feedback and you're skipped over pretty much like right away. But because there are other people waiting to give their feedback, it's sort of looked over, so no one really notices it. But you notice it, and the person doing it notices it. Then there's the people that take every opportunity to make a little dig at you, right? And you don't really notice it at first. So this happened to me actually with a good friend. And it took me a while to figure out what was going on. But this girl, it was deceiving because she was so kind and she was generous and she was fun to hang out with and we had a great laugh together. But I noticed that like every few months she would kind of make a little remark that just didn't leave me feeling very good in the pit of my stomach. But I really thought she was coming from a good place at first. But then after like the third dig and the fourth dig, I was like, that doesn't feel good. It was toxic. But the thing is, it can be deceiving because when you're not like that, you don't expect it from somebody else. So you leave the situation feeling confused, like what just happened? So why is it that some of us are able to brush off the toxicity and some people just carry it with us? Well, the truth is, if you have a kind nature, right, and you're a little bit more sensitive, you're a little bit more self-aware, if you have a high emotional intelligence, when you interact with someone who's toxic, you're going to come away and think to yourself, well, they couldn't be coming from a malicious place. That just doesn't make sense because that's not how you would react to somebody. So it's just not your first instinct. And then you're going to question yourself and say, well, what could I have done differently to get a different reaction? What did I do wrong? The thing is, the kindness, the self-awareness, the high emotional intelligence, those are awesome qualities to have. Keep those are gifts. But then comes the saying, don't mistake my kindness for weakness, right? And that's exactly what these slick toxic people do. They mistake your kindness for weakness and they see you coming. They somehow have an instinct that knows that you're gonna be really highly affected by their toxic behavior and you are the perfect victim for them. And you'll say to yourself, well, I must have done something wrong, or I'm going to just brush this under the rug. It's no big deal. Maybe they're having a bad day and make an excuse for them. But the truth is, after you do that so many times, you start to feel really drained. This brings me to something called the abandonment cycle. Why am I talking about the abandonment cycle? Well, because it's probably the reason that you're letting people away with this toxic behavior. Generally, the abandonment cycle starts in childhood or our formative years when we had parents, family members, caretakers just not hold space for us, not validate what we had to say, not advocate for us. And it left us feeling a void of connection, right? And at the end of the day, when you don't feel connected to other people, it just doesn't feel good and you'll do whatever you have to do to feel that connection. So what happens later on in life is you'll pretty much do whatever it takes to have connection with somebody and get validation from somebody. So when you come across these toxic people, your little radar goes up and you say, oh, geez, they're not validating me. They're not taking me seriously. They're ignoring me. It takes you back to that place when you were a kid and where you're experiencing all those things. But now you're an adult and you're sort of like climbing the wall saying, oh, but they must like me. They must validate me. I will do whatever it takes to get their approval. and you end up putting their needs in front of your needs. And you end up silencing yourself just to avoid the feeling of rejection. And the thing is, it's not a flaw to have this. It's a survival mechanism, because your brain knows that if you're alone, like if people don't like you, then you're not connected to other people, and that's going to leave you alone, and that's going to leave you vulnerable, and you could die. It's 2025. That's not going to happen. But your brain is still living back like thousands of years ago where that was the case. So that's why I say it's not a flaw. It's just your brain trying to keep you alive. So here's how that abandonment cycle plays out. Bear with me as I read from my script. You notice the toxic behavior, right? You raise the eyebrow. What's going on here? This feels weird. Someone ignores you, talks over you, or makes one of those lovely backhanded comments towards you. Good times. You second guess yourself. Did they really just make a comment toward me? Or was I really ignored, or did they just not pay attention? Instead of asserting your needs, you wonder if you misread the situation or somehow caused it, right? You silence yourself, or you end up over-explaining. Oh, but I was just saying this, or I was just, You let it slide, you justify your feelings, or prioritize their comfort over your own, like we just talked about. Your confidence ends up eroding because you now feel smaller than you did before. Every time you do this, a little piece of your self-respect gets chipped away. And that's no fun, right? The toxic behavior repeats because you really never dealt with it. You dealt with it internally, but you never dealt with it with the person. And because boundaries were not enforced, the pattern continues and the cycle starts over again. So now that we know how that self-abandonment cycle plays out, we are now empowered to stop it in its tracks. And you don't have to turn into a different person to do that. You don't have to become mean or aggressive or abandon the kind and awesome person that you are. You can instead rise above it and handle the situation in the most diplomatic and authentic way possible. And that brings us to, how do we do that? Step number 1, don't react right away. Do an intake of how you're feeling. Is your stomach tense? Do you feel a little bit queasy? Do you feel anxious? The body is such a great indicator of whether somebody treated us respectfully or not. Like before our brain even gets a chance to register what just happened. So let that be your first indicator, and that's going to empower you to react intentionally instead of emotionally. Step number 2, ask yourself, is this behavior okay with me? Does it align with the respect that I have for myself? Am I going to put up with this? And whatever answer comes to you, honor that. Because ultimately, that's the first step in breaking the self-abandonment cycle. Step number 3, respond with calm clarity. And that means, for example, you're left out of the email list, right, at work. Whoever's responsible for the email list, whoever the lovely toxic person who purposely left you out of that is, email them directly. And without emotion, just state the facts. Hey, I noticed I was left out of this email list. Can you please include me so that I am in the loop of what's going on? Right? Simple as that. Or your input at the work meeting gets swept under the rug. Well, you make a point to revisit it, right? Speak up again. Hey, I want to revisit the point that I was making a little bit ago. I think it's important. Blah, blah, blah. Speak up for yourself. Use your voice. No one else is going to do it for you. But you have the power to do it. Step number 4, so important, is to protect your energy, right? Your energy is so important. It is so important for you to be successful mentally, physically, spiritually. We need our positive energy, right? We need our frequency to be nice and high. And these people are doing nothing but lowering our frequency and just blanketing us with negative energy. No thanks. So how to protect your energy is to distance from these people as much as possible. So the coworker, try not to give them any personal details about your life, right? Just keep it professional, keep the interactions quick, and do your work to the best of your ability and stay in your own lane. The friend I was talking about a little bit ago who was making the digs at me, how I protected my energy in that situation was I severed the friendship. It wasn't worth it to me. I was coming away from hanging out with her feeling drained and feeling bad. And no thanks. So, out of sight now. The family member. Sometimes we have to be around our family members, even the toxic ones, during holidays and things like that. So just be around them when you have to be, but no more than that. If they're asking you to hang out and asking you to do this, asking you to do that, you're not obligated. Say no. And again, listen to the gut. If the gut's telling you, oh, that doesn't sound right, then say no, because that's protecting your energy. Step number 5 is practice self-care. When you're around these toxic people, like we mentioned, they're very draining. So fill yourself back up. Right? You can go to a yoga class. You can even do yoga on YouTube. You can do a guided meditation on YouTube. You can sit on your little meditation pillow and do a quiet meditation, whatever works for you. You can go to a coffee shop and sit and have a nice cup of coffee for yourself and maybe write in your journal. But do something that's going to fill you back up and not let these people get the best of you. So let's recap. Toxic people are all over the place, okay? We all have to interact with them, but how we interact with them makes all the difference. So now you are empowered with all the information to handle them in the best way possible without sacrificing your true self, without sacrificing your integrity and your kindness and your self-awareness and your amazing emotional intelligence. And remember that this process has nothing to do with the toxic person, okay? It's not your job to change them. This is about you showing up for yourself in the best way possible and reminding yourself, what boundaries do I need to set to honor that? So I hope this resonated. Thank you for watching. Please leave a comment. I always love hearing from you guys. And don't forget to hit the like and subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next one.